This past weekend's message at Mech took a deep dive into the seventh commandment given to us by God in His 10 Commandments. In the book called Exodus in the Old Testament of the Bible, the seventh commandment says, "You must not commit adultery." This commandment is very clear and it's very direct, and there are 4 reasons that God included this in His top 10 list that Pastor Jim walked us through. In yesterday's Devo, we looked at the first reason, which was that adultery breaks apart the emotional union of a marriage. It destroys marriages and it destroys the families. The second reason is that this is a direct offense against God, something that separates us from His love. I think that it can be so easy for people to turn inward when it comes to this type of sexual sin, to think only of themselves and their own needs or desires. But aside from the harm that you are causing to your spouse by committing adultery, not to mention the harm when children are involved, this type of sexual sin is also a direct offense against God, and this is never to be taken lightly. Pastor Jim read a passage from the very first letter written by the Apostle Paul to the church in Corinth. This comes from the Message, which is a very well-written paraphrase of the Bible. Here's what Paul says about this in 1 Corinthians. There is a sense in which sexual sins are different from all others. In sexual sins, we violate the sacredness of our own bodies, these bodies that were made for God-given and God-modeled love, for becoming one with another. Or didn't you realize that your body is a sacred place, the place of the Holy Spirit? Too often, people fail to treat their bodies as sacred places. For those who consider themselves to be Christ followers, we believe that our bodies are a place where the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity, dwells. To make the choice to violate that sacredness, no wonder this is something that God takes to heart, so much so that He even made it the seventh commandment. He created us, He loves us as His precious sons and daughters. The Grounds bookstore and cafe at Mech has so many great resources for you if this is something that you are struggling with. One book that I would recommend is Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas that explores what married Christians most need is help in becoming holier husbands and wives. I think that's something that we can all strive for.